Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a big question. How will Japan change if Sanae Takaichi becomes prime minister? This is not just a political headline. It's about how politics trickle down into your daily life. Your paycheck, your taxes, the price of gas, the yen-dollar exchange rate, even how Japan is seen on the global stage. Sanae Takaichi has just been elected as the first female leader of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party. That automatically sets her on the path to become the country's first female prime minister. This is historic. But beyond the symbolic milestone, what does her leadership really mean? For politics, will she stabilize Japan's ruling coalition or shake it up? For the economy, will she return to Abe-style policies, or is the environment too different now? For society, what changes will ordinary people feel in their everyday lives? For investors, how will stocks, bonds, and currencies react? And for the world, what does a Takaichi premiership mean for Japan's relationships with the US, China, and its neighbors? That's exactly what we're going to explore in detail today. So grab a cup of tea or maybe even dinner, because this will be a deep dive. Probably a long but important conversation. Let's start with her political journey. Sanae Takaichi isn't a newcomer. She's been a longtime member of the Liberal Democratic Party, and importantly, a close ally of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. That connection matters because Abe reshaped Japan's politics for nearly a decade. He set the stage for Abenomics, for stronger defense, and for a more assertive Japan on the global stage. Takaichi is often seen as a political heir to that legacy. Now, why is this significant? Because Japan has had a long line of male leaders, almost interchangeable in appearance and background. Suddenly, the image of leadership changes overnight. Takaichi will be the first woman at the top. But here's the twist. While symbolically she represents a breakthrough for gender representation, politically she is quite conservative. That's going to surprise some people who might expect a female leader to push progressive social policies. Coalition politics are another challenge. Japan's ruling LDP governs together with the Komeito Party, but Komeito leans more moderate, especially on issues like defense or visits to Yasukuni Shrine. Takaichi, on the other hand, is unapologetically hardline. On defense, on Taiwan, on China. That could create tension. If Komeito pushes back too hard, she may need to look for new partners, possibly smaller parties like the Democratic Party for the People. That could realign Japan's coalition politics. And her first priority? She has already signaled. A supplementary budget to deal with inflation and rising living costs. That means she wants to hit the ground running with household relief measures. Now let's talk about the economy, probably the area that matters most to people's daily lives. Think of her approach as Abenomics 2.0. Under Abe, the idea was massive fiscal stimulus, aggressive monetary easing, and structural reforms. The goal was to break Japan's deflationary mindset. But here's the difference. When Abe launched Abenomics, Japan was stuck in deflation. Prices were stagnant, wages were flat, and people were afraid to spend. Today, we're in a different environment. Inflation is already here. Food, energy, services are all more expensive. So doing Abenomics 2.0 in an inflationary world is tricky. Takaichi's plan focuses on targeted subsidies, lower fuel costs by removing or cutting the gasoline temporary tax. Provide subsidies for households struggling with energy bills. Support local communities with revitalization funds. For consumers, this will feel like a short-term relief. Filling up your gas tank might get a little cheaper. Your electricity bill could be cushioned. But the deeper problem? Food prices and service inflation don't come down easily with subsidies. She has been clear. No across-the-board consumption tax cuts. Instead, she prefers targeted aid. That makes sense politically. It avoids blowing a hole in the budget, but it also means relief will be uneven. On the investment side, she wants to pour money into national security projects, AI research, semiconductor production, energy independence, and food security. In other words, Japan is trying to make itself more resilient in a world of geopolitical uncertainty. For everyday citizens, the picture is this. You may feel temporary relief at the gas station or with your utility bills, but behind the scenes, government debt is piling up, and sooner or later, someone has to pay for that. Now let's step back and look at society. The biggest headline is, of course, Japan finally has a female prime minister. That is historic and will be celebrated worldwide. It sends a powerful signal that Japan is ready to break old political molds. But when it comes to her actual policy positions, Takaichi is deeply conservative. She has openly opposed same-sex marriage. She has been cautious about introducing dual surnames for married couples, something many younger people and working women want. Her rhetoric focuses on traditional family values. So here's the paradox. Symbolically, she is a trailblazer, but practically, she may not push reforms that expand rights for minorities or modernize family law. For ordinary citizens, that means you'll hear stronger family values rhetoric, but you won't see major progressive legal reforms anytime soon. Now let's shift to markets. Markets generally like Takaichi. Why? Because she's seen as pro-growth and pro-business. Investors expect her to continue policies that pump money into the economy. The stock market could rally, especially in sectors like defense contractors, semiconductor makers, energy infrastructure, and construction companies involved in resilience projects. On the currency side, here's what to expect. Fiscal expansion usually weakens the yen. Combine that with U.S. interest rates and global money flows, and the yen could drift weaker. That helps exporters like Toyota, Sony, and Nintendo. It also boosts tourism because Japan becomes cheaper for foreigners. But the downside, Japanese households will continue to feel imported inflation, higher costs for food, energy, and daily goods. What about government bonds? Well, all this spending means more borrowing. Investors are already worried about Japan's huge national debt. If borrowing expands too fast, long-term interest rates could rise. That's a headache for the government and the Bank of Japan. So if you're an investor, think of this as a national security economy. Defense, technology, supply chains, and energy are where the action will be. Takaichi is strong, even aggressive, on foreign policy. She is firmly pro-U.S. alliance. Expect deeper military and intelligence cooperation with Washington. She is also vocal about supporting Taiwan, which is unusual for Japanese leaders. Her stance on China is hardline. Expect more export controls, restrictions on sensitive technologies, and policies to shift supply chains away from China. This is risky. China is Japan's biggest trading partner. Retaliation could come in the form of tourism restrictions or tighter rules on Japanese companies in China. At the same time, defense spending is set to rise. She wants Japan to move closer to NATO standards in defense capability. That could reshape Japan's identity from a pacifist nation to a normal defense power. The opportunities? More Western investment could flow into Japan, seeing it as a safe hub in Asia. But the risks? A dangerous escalation in East Asia if tensions with China spill over into trade or security incidents. Let's touch on immigration. Japan's labor shortage is severe. Many industries, from construction to elder care, are crying out for workers. But Takaichi is cautious. She supports skilled labor in targeted industries, but she doesn't want large-scale migration. So don't expect an open-door policy. Instead, expect small adjustments. Easier paths for certain skilled professionals, more controlled visas for industries with acute shortages, but strict cultural and security filters. For foreigners in Japan, that means some new opportunities, especially in tech, healthcare, and skilled trades. But a big immigration wave? Not under Takaichi. Let's balance the picture by looking at risks and opportunities. Opportunities. Relief measures will ease household pain, at least temporarily. Growth in strategic industries like defense, AI, semiconductors, and energy. International recognition. Japan having a female prime minister boosts its image abroad. Risks. Coalition instability if Komeito refuses to cooperate. That could lead to political gridlock. Rising government debt and higher bond yields. At some point, the bond market may push back. Tensions with China, tourism, trade, and diplomacy could all be hit. Social stagnation. Progress on diversity, family law, or minority rights may stall. So Japan faces both promise and peril under Takaichi's leadership. All right, let's bring this home. What does all of this mean for you? If you live in Japan, watch gas prices, subsidies, and how long they last. That's where you'll feel government policy directly. If you invest, look at companies tied to defense, semiconductors, infrastructure, and exporters. That's where government spending will flow. If you're an international observer, expect Japan to be more visible in global security, especially alongside the US and Taiwan. If you're hoping for social reform, brace yourself. Progress will be slow. Symbolism is powerful, but legal changes will be limited. In short, her policies will touch your life whether you're a voter, an investor, or just someone watching Japan from abroad. So, to wrap up, Sanae Takaichi as Prime Minister is both a historic first and a conservative return. For Japan's future, this means stronger defense, generous but cautious spending, closer ties with the US, and tougher stances toward China. At home, people might feel some relief from subsidies, but don't expect deep reforms in social policy or immigration. Whether you see this as an opportunity or a risk depends on your perspective. Investors may cheer, reformists may sigh, and ordinary families, they may just be hoping the gas station bill gets a little smaller. So I'll leave the question to you. Do you think Japan under Prime Minister Takaichi will thrive or face new challenges? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.